أحبك مثلما أنت أحبك كيفما كنت ومهما كان مهما صار أنت حبيبتي.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولي الصالحين، وأشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا ومطاعنا محمد خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لن ترى المتحابين مثل النكاح أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'm very honored and pleased to be with you here this evening in the Memon estate in Mombasa. On that note, I was once told that there was an Arab girl who, in fact, there was an Arab who wanted to marry a Memon girl, and the father was reluctant. So to entice the father, the Arab said, I'll give you the equivalent of your daughter's weight in gold. What an offer. So the father said, give me time. So everyone was surprised. Why does he want time? So his friend asked him, why you want time? He says, no, I want to make my daughter fat. That's on a lighter note. Yet our topic for this evening is with regards to the institute of nikah. Now we have people from all different phases of life here this evening. And the fact of the matter is that we are all affected by nikah. Every one of us sitting here in this masjid. The reason being, either you're married, you're going to get married, or you are a product of a marriage. So either way, marriage affects us all, and that's why it's a universal topic, and it's an important topic for us to discuss. And the reality of the matter is that marriage affects us in the way that the manner in which the marriage was carried out and the conduct within the marriage affects you as an individual. That marriage that took place a long time ago between your parents, how that was carried out, and the conduct between the husband and the wife, your father and mother, has an impact upon you. And the institute of marriage is under intense scrutiny and is being challenged across the globe. Just Monday in this week, I was sitting at the radio station, and parents bring their daughter in with them, and they say that this girl wants to elope and run away with a Christian boy. Speak to her. She's not worried about her deen. And I'm shocked, and I'm listening, and I start speaking to her to ask her that why is it that you want to leave Islam, and also, okay, perhaps you want to run away with this girl, or this boy. There may be some reason. So talk to the girl, and I come to know that she met him by the gym. And nevertheless, when I further probe what is the reason behind, she then says, no, it's a mother and father constantly fighting that has driven her away. So where she found this love, she immediately became attached. We don't realize that as parents, the conduct that you are displaying within the marriage is affecting your children. It is affecting your children, and it will have an impact upon their marriage at a later stage. While across the globe, in many parts of the world, marriage has been abandoned. It's been looked upon as old-fashioned, you can just live together. It's in the Western culture. from what we receive in the West via their media outlets. Then within the African cultures of the African continent, they've also abandoned the institute of marriage. And therefore, we need to keep this institute alive because of the goodness that it brings with it. When we look at marriage and the instruction in this regard, so when we've come into this world, Allah has given us the instruction to perform salah, aqimus salah. And throughout our life, we perform salah. But the moment you set your foot or you lay down to rest in the grave, is there salah? Is there salah? There is no salah. Salah terminates. Similarly, when we in this world, we fast. We observe fast during the month of Ramadan, and that is the instruction. But the moment you are in the grave, there's no fasting anymore. With zakat, it is the same. With hajj and all the other instructions that we have in this world, it all terminates when we go into the grave. Yet, there are only two acts of worship that we take with us from this world. The one is the dhikr of Allah. That when a person leaves this world and goes into the grave and even goes into the realm of the akhirah, the barzakh, and inshallah eventually enters into Jannah. But even in Jannah, a person will make the dhikr of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, دعواهم فيها سبحانك اللهم وتحيتهم فيها سلام وآخر دعواهم عن الحمد لله رب العالمين. That they will call out to each other with words of peace. Subhanaka Allahumma wa tahiyatum fiha salam. And the last words will be wa akhiru da'wahum anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. And the last words will be the words of praise to Allah. So that is one act of worship that we'll take from this world with us into the akhirah. And the other act of worship that we take with us from this world into the akhirah is the bond of nikah. The marriage that you engage in this world, that very bond will remain with you in the barzakh and will be taken into the akhirah. And that is how sacred nikah is. In fact, to such an extent that we have been told in the ahadith that new marriages will be initiated. Ladies who never had husbands will be given a husband to choose from. It is also said in some narrations that the marriage of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be made to Asiya radiyallahu ta'ala anha, the former wife of Fir'aun. She was such a pious lady. So nikah will also be initiated in the akhirah, and that gives us an indication as to the sacredness and the power of the bond of nikah. Now nikah and marriage, we look upon this institute, it is something that as a young person, male or female, people anticipate and they're excited and they look forward to getting married. Yet the reality is that everything is not just rosy. It's not a bed of roses like they say. There are undoubtedly challenges that a person will experience. And alhamdulillah, I praise Allah that in this year I'll be married for 10 years. And it is through the various phases of a marriage that a person learns various things. Initially, when you're just on the verge of getting married, and the day you get married, and the first moments after that, that you could term as the in love phase of marriage. The person is excited, smiling randomly at moments. There's jubilation, there's anticipation, there's enthusiasm. Everybody knows about it. They can just see, and they see the person is smiling. You know, you got married. And there's happiness all around, from the boy's side, from the girl's side. Everyone's excited. The families are excited. And here you have two people who never knew each other coming together with so much happiness. And what happens in the days after that is the second phase, and that is the honeymoon phase, where the couple are happy to be together. They can't get enough of each other. Every spare moment, he wants to be with her, she wants to be with him. You'll see him performing his salah very quickly and rushing home, and everyone knows, he's newly married, that's why he's going. They'll make jokes about it. He's newly married, that's why he's going. And we make jokes about it, and you even tell him that after a few months you'll see it will change. And that is the second phase. And in this phase, it continues like this for a while. And then it takes us to the third phase. And this is where the husband now, the novelty somewhat dies down. He has a wife, yes, but he has to go back to work. I mean, life is not, the honeymoon is not going to continue, so he must go to work. He goes to work, he spends his day in work, he comes home, naturally he's tired, he's hungry. As he comes home, he's fatigued, so first thing he perhaps wants to eat. Food is not ready, he takes a nap. So he eats. He may just pick up his plate and put it in the basin if she's lucky, and he may fall asleep for a while, and he may, after that, when he wakes up, he wants to play with his phone, look at the latest messages, to see what's happening here, perhaps follow sport, or even do other things which may not be permissible, like watching the television or anything which has become part of the norm and their habit. And when he's in the mood, sometimes he will have relations, other times he may just fall asleep like that. On the other hand, from the wife's point of view, she at this stage is now sitting at home. She exerts herself in trying to please him. So she will prepare certain dishes, certain delicacies to impress him, meticulously putting the spices, seeing it's right. And he may praise her the first few days. Other days, he'll eat the food and he'll be talking about what happened at work. You won't even pay attention that she tried something new. And she'll do this for a while. She'll try to gain his attention. And after a while, she'll also realize that it's a lost case here. He'll eat, and he's then preoccupied with what happens. He wants to see his sport. He wants to play with his phone. He's waiting to get out and to go with his friends. And this takes her to a second phase. And sometimes it's both sides, which is the second phase or the third phase of marriage, which is disappointment. That both parties entered in with high expectations. That the honeymoon is going to be there, they're going to be happy, everything's going to be well. This couple is made in heaven. And then they start doubting their choice, that did I get married to the right person? Is he really cut out for me? Is she the one I want to? You start seeing certain deficiencies in a person. And we are all human beings, no one is perfect. And as much as we say honeymoon for life, it's not possible. It can never be. That's how we human beings have not been created in that way. And there is no such thing as a honeymoon for life. So life sort of reaches some sort of a pattern, it goes into some sort of a monotony, and this is where the disappointment sets in, and people start doubting. There's a concept in many of your businessmen, like they say, and there's a concept called buyer's remorse, that you bought maybe a new car, very expensive, and a couple of days later you wonder that the value is depreciating so quickly. Was this really a good buy? So a person also has that in marriage, where he thinks, did I choose the right person? And they say, don't laugh at your wife's choices, because you were one of them. You were one of them. So you laugh that she has bad taste. Well, you are the bad taste also. And this is the third phase, where there is disappointment. And at this stage, people, that high expectations are not fulfilled. And then this is where the critical phase is, where some make it through this, others don't. We've had instances in South Africa where a marriage has only lasted after the actual reception. I mean, that is the worst case, just hours. There's been a news item where there has been people who have been arguing about the biryani on the day in India, and the marriage broke. But in a more realistic way, a marriage that lasted 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, 6 months, 12 months, I mean, nothing is what you could say mind-boggling, because everything has been already occurred. It has all occurred. And it is in this third phase where, or the fourth phase, where now the two parties start to understand one another and realize what is the boundaries here, and what are the shortcomings and what are the positives. And if they can work through the fourth phase, they then enter into a fifth phase, which is what we could say an autopilot phase, where they now know each other and they then love their lives in harmony, and that is where marriage then lasts. Be that as it may, you may reach the fourth phase of the fifth phase, but even then too, marriage should never be taken for granted. The moment you think that, you know, everything is in harmony and I can take things for granted, that is when you will lose the essence of your marriage. You will lose the essence of marriage. And someone said, don't think marriage is a 50-50, that I'll give 50 and she'll give 50. Marriage is 100-100. And only if you give 100 and she gives 100 will it work. Otherwise you'll live together, but you will live separate lives, emotionless lives, where you're disconnected with one another. And as we talk about it this evening, you'll realize that you're really missing out on a lot if you've allowed yourself to fall into that. And to avoid the breakup of marriage, we realize that there are various parties that have to play their role. Together with the couple himself, they are not in isolation. And it is for that reason that in our seminars and our conferences in marriage that we have in South Africa, we've added a new topic also, and I'd like to touch on that briefly. The role that parents can play in supporting the married couple. They have a role also, because it is sometimes parents that cause the couple to break up. And it's sometimes the incorrect guidance that then causes the split. And when parents play a positive role or the correct role, that can help the couple through a difficult time. So where does parents' role really start? Where does it start? At what point? It starts with the upbringing that you give to your child. From the moment the child is born. What sort of values are you instilling in that child? كلكم راء وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Every one of you are a shepherd. Every one of you will be questioned with regards to your flock. You have a responsibility. When Allah has granted you children, they come with a responsibility. And from an early age, you are to instill within them Allah consciousness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. Instruct your family with regards to salah, and remain constant in that regard. That there's a process of instilling salah as a pivotal role in their lives. And then nurturing their character, developing them, preparing them. We focus on the wedding day and we don't prepare our children for marriage. Think about it. We focus on the wedding day and we don't prepare them for marriage. So when we think of marriage, we think, so this, we're going to have that hall, is there availability, who will perform the nikah, what family to invite, what will be the menu, how many people, where will they go after that. That is all the wedding. That is not marriage. Marriage is what's coming afterwards. We only focus on the preparation for the wedding. And we sometimes give wrong messages. So the last words that a father tells his daughter, Betty, my door will always be open for you. Is that the type of resolve that you want to send your daughter into a marriage with? That if things don't work out, you can come back home? Then you are leaving the door open, that you're creating doubt in her mind already before you've sent her off. If you're telling her that, we need to teach them how to deal with conflict. what's the use that you tell her that when your husband is angry or when your husband is, is displeased, then you should keep quiet. You tell her that. Yet the moment you as the mother, you're angry with your husband, you slam the door and go in the room. So, on the one hand, you're giving advice, but actions speak louder than words. And you can't say, do as I say, but don't do as I do. Like someone said, children will become who you are. So be the person you'd like them to be. If you want to see them as a particular person, the ideal role model, the ideal person, then you have to be that person. They will see your actions and they will mimic that. They will see how you conduct yourself in your marriage, and that will be the example for them. So if there's abuse in your house, if you as a father is continuously not contributing in terms of assisting in the house, as a mother you do a limited role, then that is what your daughter will learn, or that is what your son will learn, and that is what you are then instilling with them. So it starts with the tarbiyah that you instill with them. And as a married person, getting married, as a young girl also, you need to realize that everything will not go your way. There will be adjustment period. As a parent, as an in-law, the new person coming into your family, we are quick to judge and we say, she's very lazy. She's very lazy, this new daughter-in-law of mine. And these comments then shape the relationship, because you said this, the husband then goes and you tell your son, your wife is very lazy, you need to tell her to do. He then tells her that. You get off on a bad start. You get off on a bad start, so we're very quick to judge. And every father wants to see his daughter married in a good way. I mean, this is an intrinsic quality that everyone wants. If we look at the life of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he had a daughter, Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha, al-Mu'mineen, mother of the believer. And she was married to Kunais bin Huzafa radiallahu anhu. And when Umar radiallahu anhu accepted Islam, Hafsa also accepted Islam, and she lived as a mu'minah. She got married at a young age. And when the Muslims had made hijrah to Abyssinia, which is part of the world in which you are in, and I was speaking to the Sheikh earlier today and asking about the history of Islam in this region, and he said, well, it's not documented, but what we can say is that Islam had come to East Africa a long period ago, and that is with the first delegation of Muslims who made hijrah to this part of the world. And amongst those who made the hijrah was Hafsa and Kunais radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. They came to Abyssinia, they lived under Najashi, and then they went back. And then they made hijrah to Madinatul Munawwarah. And when they were in Madinatul Munawwarah, not long after that, in the second year, there was the Battle of Badr. And in the Battle of Badr, Kunais had sustained certain injuries which were fatal, and not long after that he passed away. Umar radiallahu anhu, the father who he was concerned. My daughter has become a widow. What's going to happen to her? He wanted her to get married to someone of a good caliber, good man. That's what he wanted. We all want this for our daughters. And from birth, one of the great scholars, Hazraji Maulana Masihullah from Jalalabad, he used to tell people and say that make dua for your daughter at birth that she gets a good husband, pious husband, with good akhlaq. So it is a concern of every father. And so Umar radiallahu anhu, he then looks out, who can I get my daughter married to? So he approaches Uthman and he says that, do you know Hafsa has become a widow? Are you interested in marrying her? And Uthman radiallahu anhu says, give me some time to think about it. And after a few days, now what had happened to Hazrat Uthman was that his wife Ruqayya radiallahu anha had also passed away this time. So he was a single man. And Umar thought, here's a noble man who's single also, perfect partner for Hafsa. So he approached. After a few days, Uthman comes back and says that it's come to me that I feel that I don't want to get married these days. And this really hurts Umar. He feels bad about it. Nevertheless, Uthman is clear to him and gives him an answer. But he's so desperate that he wants his daughter to get married to a good man. So he approaches Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, was already married. He doesn't mind that even if she's a second wife or a third wife or whatever it is, I want her to get married to a good man, a pious man. So he goes to Hazrat Abu Bakr and he says, Hafsa has become a widow. Are you interested in marrying her? And Hazrat Abu Bakr gives no answer. Nothing. But goes away. And it was shortly after that Umar then goes to complain to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and says, I went to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and I proposed that Hafsa gets married that he marries Hafsa, and he says nothing to me. I mean, what sort of a reply is that? And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says that Hafsa will get married to someone better than Uthman, and Uthman will get married to someone better than Hafsa. And it turns out that Uthman gets married to Kulthum radiallahu anh, who's obviously better than Hafsa, and Hafsa gets married to someone who's better than Uthman, who is the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The reason why Abu Bakr and Uthman refused to get married is because, and Abu Bakr explains when he meets Umar and he says to him that, when you proposed Hafsa to me and I said nothing, perhaps it hurt you. You may have been angry. He says, yes, I was angry. And they were honest. These days we are very hypocritical. We meet a man, no, everything is good, and we greet him. And behind his back we say, that man is two-faced. Like they said that in this world there are 7 billion people, but there are 14 billion faces. Because the people meet you in one way and behind your back they say something else. That wasn't the way of the Sahaba. When Umar met him, Hazrat Abu Bakr asked, perhaps you were upset? He says, yes, I was upset. He says, the only reason that kept me back from not saying anything at that time was that I knew Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was interested. I didn't know whether he was going to propose or he was just merely interested. He mentioned her, so I didn't want to divulge his secret on the one hand. On the other hand, I didn't want to say yes or no. So I waited. If Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam married her, then that was good. If he didn't marry her, I would have come to you and said that I will marry her. And that's why I remained silent at that time. So this is the desire of every father, that he has a good spouse for his daughter. And as Umar radiallahu anhu showed his concern in this regard. Now the question is how do we maintain that good relationship? What is it that makes a good relationship? And what are the key ingredients that would establish a relationship that would be like that relationship that was established between Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Hazrat Aisha, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Hazrat Khadija? And when we talk about that, we see the essence of it coming about. And the first point to a good relationship between a husband and a wife is communication, that they speak to one another. And many times as men, we think of it that when a lady goes silent, we think everything is well. That a lady was telling another lady that, my husband said that everything is good these days, and that is because I've been giving him the silent treatment for the last 3 months. So he thinks it's well. In the meantime, she's keeping quiet and holding back, thinking that I'm giving him the silent treatment. So communication is essential in a marriage. And someone said, when communication dies, then the relationship has really died. And communication is essential. How much do you really know about your wife? To the ladies, how much do you know about the nature of your husband? Can you say when she's happy? Would you be able to say when she's angry? Would you be able to say something is troubling her mind? I can see on her face that something is not right. You can just see it. Many times men don't pick up these things. And we think, men, why do we need to know this? Well, let me tell you what. Our Master Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was sensitive to this. He was sensitive to the mood of his wives. What's troubling them? What's their condition? How are they? And he once said to Aisha radiallahu anha, he said to her, Inni la'alimtu, I know, Kayfa anti, when are you, anni radiyatan, wa mata anti alayya ghadba. I know when you are happy with me and when you are angry with me. I know. Imagine the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that to her, that I know you. And she said to him, Min ayna ta'arifu dhalik? How do you know that? How do you know? And then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إذا كنت عني راضية تقولين, that when you are happy with me, you say, La wa Rabbi Muhammad. That I take an oath in your normal speech, I take an oath on the Rabb of Muhammad. وَإِذَا كُنْتِ عَنِّي غَضْبَاء, and when you are angry with me, you say, La wa Rabbi Ibrahim. Then you say, I take an oath on the name of the Lord of Muhammad, of Ibrahim. So she smiled and says, yes, you are right. You are correct. But then she explained and she said, O Nabi of Allah, La ahjuru illa ismak. That in that anger, I only leave your name. Meaning my heart is still deeply in love with you. I'm still connected with you. It's only the name that I abandon at that time. Let us ask ourselves, how much do we really know about our spouses? Do we talk to them? Do we have light conversation with them? Do we speak about things? You know, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would tell her stories. There's an incident when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam spoke about 9 ladies and how they came together, and it is the famous hadith that is called the hadith of Dhar, where these 9 ladies discussed their husbands. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam spoke about that. In the end he said that I'm like the best one to you. As men, we have a different style of communicating. As ladies, they have a different style. So typically we are solution orientated. So when we come home from work and the wife starts complaining, you know, the domestic helper, she burnt the clothes and she did this, she broke the plates and she was late and she did this and that. As a man, what you say? Fire her. Fire her. So what you do, you fire her, there's no maid the next day, you come home, there's more problems. We solution orientated. When at that moment all she wants is for you to listen with empathy, to listen to what is the problem, understand what is it that her challenges are. That she has the children on the one hand, she has this challenge. You listen, you say yes, you listen, engage. Not as you're listening, you're looking at your phone and then you're talking about something else. For men it's a challenge, you know. We hear things but we don't listen, and women require that you listen without offering a solution, without looking at how to solve the problem. Just listening, empathizing. And women talk to each other and they explain their problems, and then they feel, you know, that person, I had such a good conversation with that person. Now we're communicating, and what did you do? Yes, I understand. It must have been difficult for you. And you hardly said anything. But if you have a conversation like that, she'll say, you know, today it was really fruitful. I feel so lighter. So lighter that my burden has been lost. So that is how communication is, and we need to understand that the different styles, men enter in not realizing this. We're not in touch with the needs of the opposite gender, and that's why we live concurrent lives. So communication is essential, and everyone needs affirmation, compliment. That you think that in the initial phase of marriage, you're infatuated, you find her beautiful, you compliment her, you say you're so, you know, so pretty, there's no one like you. You want to praise, like men, you know, they take their chances. They'll praise and very charming when they're with the secretary or with other people on the street, and they're so kind. But when they're with a wife, yes, well, can I help you? Yeah, what's it? What do you need? Okay, finish. But if the secretary phone, how are you today? You know, how's your day going? Long stories. If we bring that at home, we'll have happy marriages. Like one man, you know, he's seen a lady on the street and he said, "You 1 in a million." And she said to him, "So are your chances." So we're quick to compliment people that, you know, our ladies that are strangers. But are we really willing to compliment our wives? And it is part of the sunnah. Did you know that? It is part of the sunnah to compliment your wife, to admire her beauty. That is what she desires. And for her also to compliment you as a husband, to compliment the husbands. And here's the proof of it. There is a narration in Fawaid al-Kubra. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Hazrat Aisha, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to her, "Ma akthara bayadu aynayka." That how amazing is the whiteness of your eyes. That means he complimented her. He was admiring the beauty of her eyes. And this has been recorded for us. And this comes naturally as a newly wedded, in the honeymoon phase, with the newly wedded phase. But 50 years later, or 30 years later, or 40 years later, that is when your wife may need it more. There's a husband, your husband may need it more. Speak to both sides. So that shouldn't, the moment you take things for granted, that is when you drift apart. Then you're going to live parallel lives. And then you're going to have a situation like, someone said, he advertised, "I'm looking for a wife," and he got the response from many people, "You can have mine." Like one person was standing by the grave, and he was saying that, "Why did you leave us? You should never have left this world. It's so difficult after you." And one person was walking past, and he said that, "What a display of grief next to the grave. I mean, I've never seen this. So may I ask, who are you grieving? Who's this that's buried?" He says, "No, it's my wife's first husband." So that is why we have this type of humor about marriage. It is because we've abandoned these essentials and we've lost that spark. We've lost that spark and we disconnected with one another. We take things for granted. Appreciation is important. That we verbalize it, that we say. So very often, the husband on the normal day will not thank his wife for making a plate of food. You won't thank her. You won't say, "I appreciate." Maybe on another day she made something special, so he'll thank her. But the average day, you won't thank her and say, "Jazakallah, may Allah reward you. I appreciate you made this food for me today." It will be strange. It will be strange that he compliments her and thanks her for that. It's like the person, who heard the bayan that the Maulana said, "You must thank your wife." So he went home and he thanked her that, "Jazakallah for food." And she burst out crying. She said, "Yes, but the Maulana said there'll be so much happiness in the marriage if you thank, and now you're crying." He says, "No, I cooked for you 30 years. You never said once. Now today we have the neighbor's food. Now you're complimenting the food." So we won't thank our wives on the average day because what we think in our mind, that look, I provide a shelter. I provide this home. I give her money. I put petrol in the car. I buy all these appliances. So I do that for her. So she should be doing this for me. It's just natural. I mean, I do so much. So in lieu of that, she's doing this. And on the other hand, we've got to turn the tables on them also. So the man comes home after a long day. She's sitting with the kids all day. She gives over the baby. He rocks the baby to sleep. Allahu, Allahu. The baby sleeps, puts, and she's not going to say Jazakallah. She's going to think in her mind that, every day, a whole day, I'm sitting with the baby. I do the homework with the kids. I have to bath them and put them to bed. But this is the least he can do. This is the least he can do. He must also carry his responsibility. So she's not going to say Jazakallah on the other hand, and that robs us of the essence of marriage. And we undermine one another. Like that man who, he came home, and as he came to the house, as he pulled in the driveway, he saw the door of the house slightly open, and he saw the kids still playing in their pajamas, and this alarmed him, and he says, "What's going on here?" And he opened the door. As he came closer into the house, he realized that there's toys laying all over. He goes past the kitchen, he sees the cereal of the morning still in the bowls, milk spilled on the table, the dishes still in the basin. And He's now concerned, what's happening here? And as he goes further into the house, he sees more disarray, he's more concerned. Eventually he comes to the bedroom and he opens the door and he sees his wife lying in the bed. And as he comes in the room, she greets him and she says, Assalamu alaikum, and he replies and asks, what's going on here? And she then says to him that, every day when you come home, you ask me, what did you do the entire day? Well, today I didn't do it. Today I didn't do it. So very often we undermine each other, that we don't realize what each one is doing. And we think that, this one is just doing the routine. Verbalizing. And there has been a study by the University of Georgia in the United States. And it is indicated that when you verbalize and you express your gratitude and you say, thank you for doing this, shukran, jazakumullah khair, I appreciate, you'll find that people are more willing to do. Your spouse will be more willing to do, and even amongst your employees, when you thank them, they are more willing to do for you. So this is the first point with regards to marriage, communication. Then the second point towards the key ingredients towards establishing a successful marriage is the physical touch. And we shouldn't undermine this. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam showed us at various stages that compassion and that affection, display of affection. And there are various instances where we can gauge this from the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. One day he was sitting and talking with Hazrat Aisha, and he said to her that, there are three things which should never be refused. And she asked, what is it? And he said, the one is salt, the other is fire, and the third is, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, water. And then she asked further questions, and he said that he addressed her and said, Oh Humayra, O Humayra, that do you not know that if you give someone fire, then whatever they cook after that will be a means of charity for you. Now, he addressed her in a compassionate manner. By addressing her, her name was Aisha, we refer to her as Ummul Mu'mineen. But between the two of them, he said, Humayra, the one with the red cheeks. This is a pet name. So calling your wife, honey, beloved, Piety, this is also part of the sunnah. Did you know that? This is part of what we could say, when we talk of romance, then we think of Romeo and Juliet. But when we look at the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, then there are various aspects that we can pick up from this. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala says that I would be with Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, فَيُنَاوِلُنِي كَأْسًا, and he would give me a cup, and فَأَشْرَبُ, I would drink, and then I would give, فَأُعْطِيهِ, then I would give it to him, فَيَتَحَرَّى مَوْضِعَ فَمِهِ, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would then take the cup, and he would go to the point where Aisha radiallahu anha put her lips, and he would go and he would put his lips on the very place. And this was obviously a beloved interaction for her, that she would narrate that later on and say, that was the type of relationship that I had with the Master Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That he would be eating, I would be eating some meat, and I would take from a certain place, and he would then go to that very place and take from there. And it has been proven that, couples that have been fighting, couples that find this discord in their marriages, they eat together, they do things, small things together, this brings them together. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would be in the itikaf in the masjid, and he would put his head out of the masjid, and she would brush his hair. She would brush his hair from outside the masjid. She would say that kana yattaqi'u fi hijri wa ana ha'idun. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would rest his head on my lap whilst I was menstruating. Thumma yaqra'u al-Qur'an, and he would recite the Qur'an on my lap in that particular manner. This was the type of interaction that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had enjoyed with Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. And in the various interactions that we have that you put a morsel into your wife's mouth, then this is charity. وَفِي فِيهِ وَفِيهَا, and in her mouth, a luqma, there is charity. But we think of this, maybe it comes natural for the newly married. Like someone said, if you see a man opening the door for his wife of the car, then either the wife is new or the car is new. Either the wife is new or the car is new. But 30 years will he do it? 30 years down the line? So these type of interactions come to us naturally when we get married. In the first few months, when we can't get enough with each other. But for Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Aisha, this was part of their life. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he entered the house, Aisha radiallahu anha said, the first thing he did was he began with miswak, giving us an indication, that you can understand the indication for that. Why would he be cleaning his mouth? We've lost that. We've lost that compassion, that physical touch between us. That as he would enter the house, he had his perfume, he would apply his perfume. That we don't even consider, we come rough and we come, very sloppy in front of our spouses. Perhaps as a wife, the wife would dress up for the next marriage, the next wedding they're attending, the next function. When does she really dress up for husband? Similarly as a man, did you ever think of dressing up specifically many years later into your marriage for your wife? Ibn Abbas says that أتزين لإمرأتي كما أحب أن تزين كما أن أحب أن تزين لي. That I adorn myself, I dress smart, I groom myself. We think that the person is grooming himself, there's something wrong. He says, I groom myself, I make myself look presentable before my wife, like how I would like her to adorn herself for me. So I specifically adorn myself like how I'd like her to adorn herself for me. This is the type of interaction. This is what we find in terms of what our Islam offers us in terms of the interaction between the husband and the wife, the physical touch. And there has to be that continuous effort from both sides. And it's only then that we will have that flame that will continue to burn. We will continue to enjoy that. While we say that there's no such thing as a honeymoon for life, but when you have this, then you will find the true spark of marriage. And you'll find that essence and the life in your marriage. And that is the second point. Keeping the physical touch and showing affection to one another. And then the third point that I'd like to speak about is what is needed in marriage is tolerance. And people have different natures. Every person has been molded differently. Everyone comes from a different background. And no two people will be the same. No two people will be the same. If we look at the verses of the Noble Quran with regards to nikah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا. Or you believe, fear Allah and say that which is correct. Say that which is correct. So knowing how to say or when to restrain yourself, that is important. Human beings are different in terms of how we display our anger. So there are 4 categories of people. The first type of a category of a person is a person who gets angry quickly and it takes him long to return to normal. So he gets angry, short-tempered, and it takes him long to get normal. That is the worst type of a person. Then you have someone who gets angry quickly and he's okay afterwards. Never mind, it's over, forget about it. And then the third type of a person is a person who takes long to get angry, but when he gets angry, then his anger is also prolonged. And it takes him long to come right. He then holds on to the grudges. So this person takes long to get angry, but when he gets angry, then you've got to run. And the fourth type of person is the person who takes long to get angry. And when he gets angry, very quickly he returns to normality. It's over, no problem. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam described that and he said, the fourth person is the best person. and you should try to be like him. Try to be like the fourth person. And anger is such a thing that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam spoke about it, and he said that if you are standing, sit. If you are sitting, lie down. If you are in a position where you're lying down and you're still feeling anger, perform wudu. In some narration it said, put water in your mouth. Now if you have water in your mouth, you won't be able to say anything. Or leave that place. Leave that place. And that is how you deal with the situation. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam showed us the perfect example in this regard. Now, every person won't come with everything to a marriage. Let me explain to you one angle that perhaps you didn't know. Aisha radiallahu anha has narrated a large number of ahadith. And she is the mother of the believer. She had amazing qualities, and we spoke about the affection. But did you know that she was not the best with regards to cooking? So you can't get everything. You're going to have to compromise in one way or the other. So that is a consolation to some of the ladies. Anyway, one day while Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in her house and she was preparing food, and Salama radiallahu ta'ala anha, obviously everyone was desirous and competing for the attention of the Master Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, their husband. Now we know the rivalry between mother and daughter-in-law and all of that. Can you imagine what it is like between co-wives? 2 or 3 wives competing for the attention. So Salama, while Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam sitting waiting for the food with Anas radiallahu anhu there and others, sends a platter of food to the home of Aisha, and it is her day. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam sees the food and he says, Da'u aydiyakum, come, let's partake. Yes, the food, it's here, let us eat. And they start eating. And our mother, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, is unaware. And then she sees it. And she becomes aware of the fact that there is food that has been sent by her co-wife on her turn. And when she noticed that, she goes and she grabs the food and she throws it to the ground. And the plates breaks and the food splashes all over the place. Now the question is, how is Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam going to respond? Remember, this is that very Nabi who said, don't break, don't waste, show respect, appreciate food. These are his teachings. The teachings have been violated. How does he respond at this time? He simply says, Gharat ummuk. Your mother has been gripped by a moment of possessiveness. That's all he says. Your mother, and he still respects her. Not this lady, the mother of your children. You know how we say, the children's mother, we try to distance ourselves. He says to the Hazrat Anas and those, your mother, meaning she's still an honorable lady, has been gripped by a moment of possessiveness. And then he diffuses the situation. What does he do? He then instructs that a plate has to be taken from the home of Aisha radiallahu anha and sent to the home of Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha. In fact, it is Salama, and he says, Ina'un makana ina'in. You broke her plate, now there has to be justice. So a plate has to be replaced. Your plate will be given to her home. And that is how he dealt with the situation. The calmness, the collectiveness. The point is, we will be provoked, and that is her job. If she doesn't do that, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong. So she will provoke you. She will insinuate you. She will trouble you at times. And you as a man, as being the head of the home, that Allah has granted you, Ar-Rijalu Qawwamuna ala Nisa. You can't stoop to that level, to utter things that would regret, utter things that would destroy your life. When you issue 3 talaqs in one go, that is destroying your life. There is no way of coming together. Extremely problematic. And we as men need to understand. Very often a young man falls for the trick. He gives in. So a lady says, if you're man enough, then give me my talaqs. So he says, I'll give it to you. And he says to her 3, I'll show you. But when she says, give me my talaqs. What is she saying? She's not saying, give me my talaqs. She's saying that show me you love me so much that you won't give me talaq. That is what she's saying. We need to understand that there's different ways of communicating. She's telling you that show me that you love me so much that you never. But the man falls for it and says, I don't need her, she can go. And then they regret, and he comes to the mullah and says, I gave talaq in anger. You say, who gives talaq in happiness? Who gives talaq in happiness? There's no way of reconciling. So, as a man, you need to be able to respond, to remain silent. Silence will save you from many problems, and a smile will get you out of many problems. So you need to know how to respond, and you don't need to respond to every situation. Sometimes silence will solve a problem. Let me give you an example. Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam, he was now given the glad tidings that he's going to have a son. And he was worried at an old age, old couple, people worry that now, old couple like this, they're having a child, what's going on? Was it a mistake? What's happening? So he asked Allah, Ij'al li ayah, make me a sign, give me a sign. And Allah said, Ayatuka alla tukallima an-nas thalathata ayyam. Your sign is that you remain silent for 3 days and make tasbih. So, and after 3 days of silence, everyone knew that أن الله يبشرك بيحيى مصدقا بكلمة من الله وسيدا وحسورا ونبيا من الصالحين. When a child is to be born, Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam will be a sign from Allah. So my point is, silence has its benefit. And how to control the tongue, the poet says, and al-lisan jismuhu saghir wa jurmuhu kabir. It is small in size, but the crimes that are permitted or perpetrated by the tongue is really grave. That the wounds of the sword will heal. Jarahatu sayfi laha al-iltiyam wala iltiyama lima jarah al-lisan. That the wounds of the sword will heal, but the wounds of the tongue will never heal. And that's why, as a father-in-law, as a mother-in-law, you say things very quickly. You judge your new daughter-in-law. You say things, and those things then become the means of a relationship. It becomes the basis. We need to learn to control the tongue. That is essential if we want to have a harmonious relationship. And it's only with the control of the tongue that you'll be able to then, at times when there's a provocation, there will be fights. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also there was a period where he remained 30 days away from his wives. There's a period when his own daughters had problems in their marriages. But it's how do you deal with it? How do you deal with the situation? One day the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam goes to the home of his own honorable daughter, Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha. And the moment he enters, he realizes things are not right here. So he asked her, Aina ibn Ammi, where's my cousin? Because Ali radiallahu an was his cousin also. So she says, Kana bayni wa baynahu shay'an. There was something between us. فَغَاضَبَ, he became angry. فَخَرَجَ, and he went away. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam realized that the son-in-law is not there. He's perturbed. He comes out. Everyone says you could see that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is uneasy. What has happened? Someone sees him. He says, Aina ibn Ammi, where is he? Fattish lahu, search for him. So they go looking out, they're looking. Eventually they find him for Ali radiallahu anhu lying in the masjid. He's lying down in the masjid. There was no carpet like this in the masjid. He had a shawl on. So he was lying in the masjid with his shawl exposed, so he was in the sand. And the sand was covering his body. The moment Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam sees him, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, Qum ya Aba Turab, stand up, dusty man. And with this one word, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam diffuses the situation. Ali radiallahu anhu says, I had many titles afterwards, but that one title, Abu Turab, was the one title that gave me a lot of pleasure when people would call me with that. Because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam called me with this. When was it? When Ali radiallahu anhu was fighting with his daughter. At that moment he called him by a name that was so affectionate to him. He said, dusty man. At that moment. Now look at how the dispute is being handled. That when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went to Fatima radiallahu anha, she said there was something between me and him and he went away. She didn't say, he did this and he did that and on that time he did that and that time and from that time, and they never forget. She didn't do that. She said there was a fight. Yes, there was a fight. On the other hand, when Ali radiallahu anhu, he also never made long stories. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam got to resolving the problem. Sometimes we get into the nitty-gritty and we create a bigger problem. Small problem, we involve this person, we involve that person, and we involve so many different parties that the couple want to come together. But now this one's father, the two in-laws have said so much to each other that they can't come together because of what has been said. We involve too many people. And too many people know. And she didn't throw out her dirty linen, because every couple will have their problems. The more people you say, the more unlikely it is it will remain a secret. You want to be together, you need to keep certain things as a secret. This is how they handle that situation and diffuse the situation. Now, there will be situations. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had also at one stage had contemplated giving divorce to Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha. And what is essential, and this is my final point for this evening, what is essential, and this is an important and critical point, with all that we said, is piety will save a person in marriage. We can never undermine it. Because when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had thought of Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala, what had happened was that on one occasion Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in fact it was Umar radiallahu anhu who was saying something to his wife, and she gave him an answer, and he was shocked and he said, since when do you respond to me that way? She said to him that even the wives of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam are speaking to him in that way, responding. And then he explains and says that we the Muhajirin, our wives were very submissive and responsive, and when we say something they would remain silent. But the wives of the Ansar, when a man would say something, they would respond like the wives of Mombasa. There's hope for you. You say something, they say something back. So you are shocked that, what is this? We don't know this. So Umar radiallahu anhu, when his wife said, but even Hafsa and the others are doing this to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, woe to her, that she will be destroyed if this is the case. And he went to her and he asked, and at that point something had happened. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was contemplating to divorce Hafsa radiallahu anha. And Jibreel had come down and said, don't divorce her, فَإِنَّهَا سَوَّامَةٌ قَوَّامَةٌ وَإِنَّهَا مِنْ إِمْرَأَتُكَ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. That she is a lady who stands her nights in tahajjud, and in the day she is fasting, and she will be from amongst your wives in Jannah. So piety is essential in a marriage. We can never undermine piety and the importance of it. And when we have piety in the marriage, that is what will take the marriage through all these difficult times and will bring us to the end. And when you have pious people coming together, then you'll have the amazing fruit. Who hasn't heard of the great scholar Abdullah bin Mubarak rahimahumullah? Do you know what is the story behind that? There was once a master who had a slave, and his slave or his servant, his name was Mubarak. And one day the master said to the servant of his, the master owned an orchard, and he said to him, bring from me a certain fruit and bring a sweet one. So Mubarak went to the orchard and he brought something and he presented it, and the master tasted it, it was bitter, and put it aside, and he said, no, I want something sweet. And he went back, and he went and he took and he picked something and he brought it back to the master. And the master became annoyed again. He said, no, this is not sweet, bring something sweet. So a third time he went back and he looked and he brought it back and he presented it to him. The master tasted it and he said, it's not sweet, why are you giving me this? Don't you know what is sweet? Don't you know what is sweet? So Mubarak said, no, I don't. He said, but you're working here so many years already, don't you know? I mean, haven't you tasted? Aren't you able to decipher and ascertain what is sweet? He says, no, I haven't tasted. You haven't given me permission. You haven't told me that I can have from the garden, from the orchard, so I haven't had. And that's why I don't know which is sweet and which is the bitter one. Master was shocked and he said, this is really something amazing. This is an amazing quality. And he said, this is something truly that needs to be commended and appreciated. I want you to get married to my daughter. And that is when Mubarak married the daughter of the master, and from that union, from that marriage, you had the emergence of Abdullah bin Mubarak rahimahullah. What an amazing scholar. Such a scholar who divided his year into 3 parts. One part you would dedicate to performing Hajj, which would take 4 months. One part you would be in jihad in the path of Allah, and one part of the year you would be in the Dars and Tidris narrating ahadith. And the great scholars of hadith have narrated his ahadith. He's one unique scholar in the sense that you don't find anyone who criticizes him. Even Imam Bukhari, even Imam Hanifa, Imam Shafi, there are people who criticized him, but you won't find any critique against Abdullah bin Mubarak rahimahumullah. This is the type of fruit that came from that union. This is the type of fruit that when pious people come together. Umar radiallahu anhu was so aware of what was going on when he was the Amirul Mu'mineen, and he would walk in the streets at night and ascertain what's going on, what is affecting people. And one night, as he's walking past, he hears a noise and he listens to the conversation between a mother and a daughter. And what is the conversation about? They are busy preparing milk to be sold, and the mother is telling the daughter, put some water in the milk. As I said at the outset, children will see how you act and they will hear how you speak. So you need to be the example for them. You need to be the person you'd like them to be. It's no use you tell them about piety and you tell them about this and that, but your action is contradictory. So the mother is telling the daughter, put some water in the milk to increase the amount so we can get more money. They may have been, and we have 100 excuses that it's difficult. Maybe our husband is out in jihad, he's gone here, he's out in the path of Allah. We can just get some benefit with this, some extra resources. And she says to the mother, the girl, but Umar has prohibited this. Umar has prohibited this. He said this type of thing shouldn't take place. So the mother says that, but Umar is not here to see, how will he know? Allah made it that he could hear. He says, well, if he's not here now to see, but the Rabb of Umar is also watching us. The Rabb of Umar is also watching us at all times. You can't hide from him. Umar radiallahu anhu heard this and he said that this is an amazing girl. Let me get her married to my son. And was from that union, from the progeny that you had Umar II, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, who ruled with such justice that at that time people didn't know where to give their zakat. Everyone's poverty was alleviated. It is said to such an extent that the wolf would not attack the sheep because of the justice with which he ruled. And one day there was a shepherd out and the wolf attacked the sheep. He immediately knew that Umar bin Abdul Aziz has passed away. So where did it come from? Where did it come from? It came from that piety that we take into the union. This bond of marriage is an amazing bond. The joy that you will attain from it is unparalleled. And a study has been done that a man who has abundance of wealth, he may be having private jets and homes here and there, whether it's in London or Venice, in New York, but if he doesn't have a wife as a partner, and you take someone who is in a marriage, in a good marriage, keeping in front of him the romance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, keeping it alive, the joy that he will attain is far superior to the enjoyment that that person will attain from all his wealth. And it is simply for that reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses and speaks about marriage in a unique manner. in the most amazing manner, and he says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. It is amongst the signs of Allah. Now, what is a sign? A sign directs you to something. If you see the boards, Mombasa, you follow those boards, you'll get to the city. What is the sign directing us to? The sign is directing us to Allah. That when you look at this union, this is such an amazing union that if it is upheld in the correct manner, the love that Allah will put between the two couples, it is so amazing that it will make you think of the greatness of Allah. That Allah says, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, that you will gain comfort from her, she will gain comfort from you. And وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً, I will put the love. I will put the love in it. And when you see this, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, this is undoubtedly a sign for those who reflect. When you look at this, you'll see the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This marriage, the bond of marriage is so unique. لَن تَرَى الْمُتَحَابَيْنِ مِثْلَ النِّكَاحِ, that you will never see such a close bond like nikah. That a person, a lady gives birth to a baby, they are close to each other. They live together for 15 years, 16 years, 20 years with the parents. That very girl gets married. Within a few days of the marriage, a few hours, she has a relationship with her husband where she connects in such a way that she was never able to connect with her own parents. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say, you will see no other love like the love of nikah. You will see no other love like the love of nikah. It is there, and it is to last a lifetime. It is not only for newlyweds or for pre-marriage that we have this love, but the love is there to last a lifetime. And even into Jannah, you keep that love alive if you do it in the correct manner. If you express it according to the sunnah of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, taking your cue from the Master Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And relationships are such, they are like trees that you need to look after them. But when you look after them, they will then be strong, and they will then give you shade when you need the shade. Like someone said that, with regards to marriage, that marriage is such that there's no protecting you from the storm. You can't shield someone. There will be a storm in your marriage, but what can happen is you can have the umbrella, and the umbrella will protect you from the storm, and you can walk with it, under it together. So when you invest in your marriage, and you continue to invest time, effort, your mind, your thoughts, your affection, from both sides, both parties continue to do that, then you will have the fruit of marriage, and you will continue to experience the joy of marriage. It wouldn't be like how people say that, in the first phase, before marriage, they are mad for each other. And then when they come together, they are made for each other. Then after a few weeks or months, then they are mad at each other. Like they say, in the first year, the husband speaks and the wife listens. The second year, the wife speaks and the husband listens. The third year, they both speak and the neighbors listen. And there's so much humor with regards to marriage that one day there was a cop, and he phoned his sergeant to say that a lady has shot her husband because he stepped on the floor that she just mopped, and she shot him. So the sergeant said, so have you arrested her? So he says, no, the floor is still wet. So we have so much humor about how bad marriage is, and that is on the lighter side. Yet if you follow the guidelines that we've shared, you'll find such joy in marriage that Allah says, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. You'll find such love and mahabbah that nothing else can give you that in this world. May Allah grant us that we uphold these principles in terms of communication, in terms of displaying compassion, in terms of tolerance. May Allah grant us strong bonds, because when you have good marriages, you have a cohesive society, and then you can talk about other things that affect the society. But when you have weak marriages, marriages breaking down, then you have drugs, alcoholism, people becoming dysfunctional, falling out, and it affects the entire community. At the core of this is to have good homes and to bring to life the family unit, and in that there is the protection. May Allah grant it to one and all. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqi Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. We've spoken so much, I think it's already the time for the dua, and that's where we leave it. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqi Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een.
أنتِ حبيبتي أنتِ زوجتي أنتِ حبيبتي أنتِ أحبك مثلما أنتِ أحبك كيفما كنت ومهما